Thanks, Ron, and good afternoon, everyone, and we really thank you all for coming today. The Cambridge market has just under 20 million square feet of space and is primarily filled with technology tenants and life science tenants who want to be near MIT and Harvard and near each other. Cambridge has two major product types, a traditional office market of 10.6 million square feet and a biotech lab market of 8.3 million square feet. Both markets had weak demand during 2008, and the erosion of the underlying fundamentals accelerated through the year, ending with a very weak fourth quarter, when significant amounts of sublease space came onto the market and other space givebacks occurred. For the year, absorption was a negative 410,000 square feet, and vacancies rose to 13.8%, a rate, by the way, that is still well below the 2003 market bottom of 23%. Let's focus on the office market first. We see a similar trend line here. There was light demand through the year, and during the fourth quarter, approximately 310,000 square feet of space came back to the market. This led to significant negative absorption and rising vacancies. The market fundamentals are eroding. Although the 11.5% vacancy rate is roughly half the rate that occurred at the 2003 market bottom. Overall, tenant demand was weak. Demand, for the most part, was driven by lease expirations. As you can see, 6 out of 8 of the largest transactions were renewals, and there was not much growth or new velocity in the market. Growing tenants became very cautious, holding off making decisions. Current demand remains very soft. Genzyme has been in the market exploring a build-to-suit for the past 3 years, but has not made a commitment anywhere. Forrester Research has a 2011 lease expiration and has been looking around, but there are currently no large blocks of space available, which means Forrester would have to look at a build-to-suit. My bet is that Forrester will end up renewing its lease at Tech Square. And once you get past Genzyme and Forrester, there's very little meaningful demand in the market. The deal velocity drops off very quickly. We have also seen a significant drop in rent since the middle of 2008. The 3 buildings shown are just examples of the big drops in asking rents, ranging from 10 to 22%. Right now, landlords are spooked. The prolonged period of weak demand, coupled with the increase in sublease space, has caused landlords to become much more aggressive. These buildings all have sublease space that was recently put on the market. All are offering rates that are discounted 30 to 40% below rents for the direct space in the same buildings. The subleases will drive rents down even more across the entire market. The migration of Cambridge biotech companies to the Route 128 belt continues. Biogen IDEC has signed a lease with Boston Properties for a 350,000 square foot build-to-suit office building and plans to take occupancy in July 2010. Biogen was driven to the suburbs due to the lack of available options in Cambridge, the lowest suburban cost structure, and Biogen's desire to locate closer to more affordable housing options for all of its employees. Biogen does plan to leave all of its R&D functions and its research labs in Cambridge, where it currently occupies about 600,000 square feet in 4 buildings. Now let's take a look at the lab market. Vacancies increased to 15.4% during 2008 due to light demand and to sublease space coming to the market. Absorption was a negative 92,000 square feet. However, the market for lab space is actually a lot tighter than a 15.4% vacancy rate would indicate. Active tenants have found that there are very few space options that actually meet their individual space needs. This results because of the quality and type of lab spaces that are currently available. By way of example, 26% of the vacant space is obsolete and unleasable. 31% of the vacant space is very expensive, new shell space that is primarily located in one building and can only be leased in very large blocks. and 30% represents older Class B space that typically would have many deficiencies. So tenants of all sizes are struggling to find acceptable options. However, the real story in 2008 was the lack of demand. Deal velocity was only 375,000 square feet, and remember that net absorption was a negative 92,000 square feet. This slide shows the largest lab leases signed. Leasing activity came primarily from young, early-stage companies doing smaller leases. There were no major leases to leading pharmaceutical or biotechnology companies or to any of the major medical research institutions. Vertex Pharmaceuticals' interest in Fanpier has been a major story over the past year. Vertex had signed a letter of intent for 500,000 square feet at Fanpier, but the deal fell apart as a result of the problems in the capital markets. Vertex currently occupies 550,000 square feet in 8 buildings in Cambridge, and the move to Fanpier would have resulted in a consolidation of its operations and a relocation out of Cambridge. Vertex ended up renewing a couple of its leases that were coming due and perhaps putting its consolidation off for another day. Overall, current biotech demand is light. Vertex, Forsyth, Novartis have large requirements, but demand from others falls off dramatically after that. The other tenants in the market represent startup to early stage companies looking for small amounts of space. How about rents? Well, there's definitely downward pressure on rents for all available spaces, but nowhere near the pressure currently felt in the office markets. We do expect to see more sublease space come to the market shortly, which should lead to additional downward pressure on rents. It appears Alexandria is making great progress on the permitting of its ambitious Binney Street development. The Cambridge Planning Board has given tentative approval for a 1.8 million square foot project that will include 1.6 million square feet of research space in 5 buildings and an additional 240,000 square feet of residential and retail space. Alexandria will also donate 2 acres of land and $9.5 million for the construction of a new city park. The saga of North Point continues. The property is reportedly back on the market after attempts to buy the site by multiple parties over the past year failed. The current condition of the capital markets make financing of a project like this very difficult, not impossible, and the project is also hamstrung by potentially $150 to $200 million of required infrastructure costs, further adding to the project's complexity and challenges. North Point is a great site, but a site that might have to wait for the next cycle. Generally, for both the office and lab markets, we foresee a continuing deterioration of the market fundamentals through the better part of 2009. Vacancies are rising, and so long as demand is weak and sublease inventory accumulates, there is going to be downward pressure on rents. But a vacancy rate at 13.8% is not bad by most standards, and I'm sure there are many markets across the country right now that would take that in a minute. Our drivers, world-class universities and research institutions are still going to be standing when we get through this down cycle. Cambridge will come out of this just fine. Thank you, and I'd now like to introduce Jim Elcock, who will review the suburban markets. Thank you.